They told me not to bring a +1 to the wedding. It's family only, we're keeping it intimate. I showed up alone. Then watched my brother's college roommate propose to his girlfriend mid-reception. I clapped politely, walked over to the DJ, and asked, "Can you pause for one announcement?" Then I leaned in. The open bars on my card, not anymore. My girlfriend Claire wasn't on the wedding invitation. I texted my mom, then called when she didn't reply. She picked up and got straight to it. Said the wedding was going to be just for family. I asked what that meant. She paused and said it again slower, like I didn't understand English. We wanted to feel like a family affair. I asked why my girlfriend wasn't considered family. She said it wasn't personal. They were just trying to keep things simple. I asked if Logan was coming. Logan's my sister's fiancé's old college roommate. She said yes, but that's different. I didn't say anything after that. Just hung up and stared at the wall for a while. We've been together 3 years. We share a bank account. We split rent. We cook dinner together, fall asleep to the same Netflix shows, talk about getting married when we can afford to. But her family doesn't own property, so I guess that makes her invisible in their version of things. I told her what my mom said. She just nodded and said, "Of course." She didn't ask me not to go. Didn't say she was hurt. Didn't cry. That almost made it worse. I think she expected it. I think she's always expected people like them to treat her like this. The wedding was in upstate New York at some vineyard that doubles as an event space. It looked like the inside of a wedding magazine. Twinkle lights, floral archway, customized menus. Everyone had matching outfits for the rehearsal dinner. They posted a hashtag for the weekend. My name card was set at the table next to some family friends I hadn't seen since I was 14. Claire was glowing and my parents acted like they were hosting a royal wedding. My dad kept saying things like, "We're just so proud of her," and people kept coming up to me to ask if I was seeing anyone. I gave short answers and smiled a lot. The ceremony was exactly what you'd expect. Vows, tears, 1,000 cell phones. Then came the reception. I sat at a table with a view of the dance floor and tried to time my drinks so I wouldn't have to talk too much. Around the second course, the DJ announced a brief pause while the newlyweds freshened up. That's when Logan stood up. He clinked his glass and his girlfriend looked confused. Then he dropped to one knee right there on the dance floor. Loud gasp, a few squeals, and people scrambling to record it. The DJ even played some romantic instrumental track on cue. It looked rehearsed. People started cheering. Someone yelled. She said yes. Claire's expression froze for a second, but then she smiled. It was the same smile she gave when I got her the wrong birthday gift when we were kids. Polite, controlled, and mostly for other people. I waited for someone, anyone, to say maybe this wasn't the moment. Nobody did. So I stood up, walked to the DJ booth, and asked if I could make a quick announcement. He looked hesitant but handed me the mic. "Open bar was on me," I said. "But not anymore." There was a pause, a few confused laughs. Someone at the back clapped once, then stopped. I handed the mic back, pulled my card from the tab, and told the bartender to cancel whatever was still running. Then I walked out through the side door, past the caterer holding a tray of mini tacos, and drove back to the Airbnb without saying a word to anyone. That night, my mom called 5 times. I let them all ring out. Then she texted, "Come to the house tomorrow morning. We need to talk." I figured I owed them that much, but I also knew it was going to get worse before it got better. What I didn't know yet was just how far they were willing to take it. I pulled up to my parents' house around 9 o'clock. Same front porch, same cracked flower pot by the steps. It looked like nothing had changed, like I was still a teenager coming home after soccer practice. But I wasn't, and I knew this wasn't going to be a talk. It was going to be a performance. They were already at the kitchen table. My mom, dad, and Claire, all with their coffee cups in that stiff church lobby posture like they'd rehearsed this. No hellos. My mom just motioned toward a chair. I didn't sit. My dad started with, "You embarrassed the family." My mom jumped in right after with something about timing. How weddings are sacred and how I turned Claire's big day into a scene. Claire still hadn't said a word. She just stared into her cup like she was above all of it. Like this didn't even involve her. Then they brought up Logan. My mom called it one of the most special moments of the night. I said nothing for a second because I genuinely couldn't believe we were talking about Logan, a guy whose biggest contribution to the evening was stealing attention for a proposal no one even asked for. I finally said, "So, let me get this straight. My girlfriend, who I've lived with for 3 years, wasn't welcome. But Logan, a guy who hasn't been part of this family for 5 minutes, gets a standing ovation for hijacking the reception." My dad told me I was missing the point. My mom said they had every right to set boundaries for their daughter's wedding. Then Claire finally spoke. She said it was supposed to be simple, Andrew. We didn't want drama. I told them the only drama was what they created. That I'd kept quiet when they left my girlfriend off the invite. Didn't argue when they tried to make me feel like a guest instead of family. And even then, I showed up, smiled, paid for the bar, and they let some guy I barely know treat the night like his personal engagement party. Nobody stopped him. Nobody told him it wasn't the right moment. They didn't respond to that, just shifted back to how I overreacted. My mom said I chose my girlfriend over them. I said, "Yeah, I did because she's the only one who treats me like I matter." Claire muttered something under her breath, but I didn't even ask her to repeat it. I didn't care. Then my dad said something about the mortgage. That since the house was still in their name, anything I paid was just help, not a contribution. That I didn't have the right to hold it over them. I told them I wasn't holding anything. I just stopped helping. That's what they wanted, right? Independence, separation, clean lines. So fine, no more support, financial or otherwise. My mom looked like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't wait around for it. I told them I wished them well. I said, I hope the house, the guest lists, and the image they were clinging to kept them warm at night because people won't. Claire didn't look up when I left. My dad didn't follow me. My mom didn't call out. I got in my car, drove back to the apartment, and walked in to see her folding laundry on the couch. She looked up and asked if it went as expected. I said, "Yeah." We ordered takeout, sat in silence, and finished a movie we'd already seen twice. It felt peaceful, weirdly, like something had ended, but not in a tragic way. More like something rotten had finally collapsed under its own weight. Then, exactly 2 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. Inside was the utility bill. No note, no explanation, just a piece of paper like nothing had happened. The envelope showed up on a Tuesday, plain white. My name written in my mom's handwriting like nothing had changed. I opened it and saw the utility bill for their house, gas, electric, even the water bill. No note, no message, not even a post-it. Just the bill like they expected me to pay it without question. It sat on the counter for a day before I even said anything. She saw it first when she got home and held it up. I told her what it was and she laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was ridiculous. After everything, they still thought I was the guy who would just pay and stay quiet. I'd already taken my name off the account 2 weeks ago. Right after the wedding, I figured if they were going to treat me like an outsider, I wasn't going to keep paying for the roof over their heads. I was helping with the mortgage because they said they were struggling with the monthly gap. I never lived there. I never planned to. But when my dad asked for help a year ago, I agreed. I didn't even think about it. That's what family does, or what I thought they did. Then they made it clear that my girlfriend didn't count, that I didn't count unless it was convenient. 2 days after I got the bill, I started getting texts first from my dad. "We need to sort out the financial side of things. Call me, then Claire. Can we talk like adults this time?" Then my mom. "I'm worried about the house. Please don't do this. That one hit different. Please don't do this." Like I was the one breaking something that was working fine. Like they hadn't cut me off first. I didn't respond, not to any of them. Then the call started. My dad left a voicemail that sounded like he was trying not to raise his voice. Said the bills were piling up and that they thought I was going to at least help through the summer. My mom called twice in one day. Claire sent a long text about how I took things too far and that everyone's dealing with stress and maybe I should be more understanding. I read every word of it while sitting in the car outside our building. Engine off, phone in my lap. Then I blocked the group chat and made sure the mortgage account was locked down and updated. All of it in my name had been canceled. The bank confirmed it. I was done. A few days passed before anything else happened. Then late Friday night, there was a knock at the door. I knew it before I looked. My mom, standing there in a beige cardigan, holding her purse like she was on her way to church. I didn't let her in. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She said they didn't realize how serious I was, that they thought I'd cool off and things would go back to normal, that they missed me, that Claire was struggling, and they all felt like I'd abandoned the family. I told her I hadn't abandoned anyone. I just stopped pretending everything was fine. She asked if we could fix it, start over. I said I didn't think so. I told her I was done chasing people who only wanted parts of me. She stood there for a while, didn't argue, didn't cry, just nodded and left. Felt final. But I should have known better because people like them don't let go that easily. Not when there's something left to take or control or manipulate. The real storm hadn't even started yet. It went quiet for a few days after she left. No calls, no texts, no letters. I thought maybe they were finally done. Maybe it sunk in that they couldn't guilt or gaslight their way back into my wallet. For the first time in weeks, the apartment actually felt peaceful. Then out of nowhere, my uncle messaged me. He never texts me. Said he heard about the situation and that I should really think about making things right with my parents. He said they were hurting and family isn't something you just walk away from over a disagreement. I didn't reply, didn't need to. He was just the first wave. Next came my cousin, then a friend of Claire's from high school, messaging me on Facebook saying I was being unfair to my amazing sister. I hadn't talked to this girl in 5 years. She said I ruined her wedding and humiliated the family, and I should have just kept quiet if I had issues. That's when I realized Claire had been talking a lot, spinning the story around until she came out looking like the victim. She must have told them I stormed out, ruined the party, and cut off the mortgage out of spite. She left out the part where they told me not to bring the woman I live with, or the part where some guy who wasn't even family hijacked her wedding reception and nobody said a word. They painted me as selfish, bitter, vindictive. The guy who turned his back on his sweet little sister's big day and tried to financially sabotage his own parents. And people believed it because it's easier to believe the guy who walks away is the problem than to ask why he left. She tried calling a few times after that. I never picked up. Then she left a voicemail, said things were getting out of control and that she wanted to talk just the two of us. Said she thought we could fix things if I just see their side. I didn't call back. There was nothing left to fix. Every time I thought we were at the bottom, they kept digging. Then it got worse. 2 days later, I got an email from my mom. Forwarded copies of every payment I'd ever made toward the mortgage. She said she appreciated the help but wanted to make it clear that those payments were gifts, that they were not obligated to return anything, and that she hoped this cleared up any confusion. It wasn't about clarity. It was about control. About making sure I knew I had no leverage, about cutting off any path where I could hold them accountable for how they used my money. It wasn't legal. It wasn't official. It was just her way of saying, you gave, and we took, and that's the end of it. That night, my girlfriend asked if I was okay. I said I didn't know. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. It was about how fast they could turn me into a stranger. The moment I stopped being useful, I told her I was done talking about them, done defending myself to people who never saw me clearly in the first place. She asked if I meant it. I did, or I thought I did. But then came the letter that really pushed things over the edge. The certified letter felt like something out of a bad movie. It was stiff, heavy, folded with precision, and came with that quiet threat you don't need a lawyer to understand. I opened it on the couch. She was in the kitchen chopping vegetables and talking about her day, and I wasn't even listening. My mind was already spinning by the time I saw the heading. It wasn't a lawsuit, but it might as well have been. It was from my dad, a formal declaration that I had no legal or financial claim to their house, despite prior contributions, and that I should acknowledge this in writing for clarity and closure. They also outlined what they called unrecoverable emotional harm from the wedding incident, phrased just carefully enough to sound serious without actually threatening legal action. There were spreadsheets, paragraphs about their financial planning, even a note from some financial advisor, probably a friend of my dad's, explaining how verbal contributions to family property don't create legal obligations. The whole thing was cold, detached. Not a single line acknowledging why I stopped paying in the first place. No mention of how they excluded my girlfriend. No reference to the conversation where they disowned us. Just an attempt to clean it all up on paper and pretend it was a misunderstanding. She walked over, saw the papers, and sat next to me. Neither of us said anything for a while. Eventually, she asked if I was okay. I wasn't even sure what to say. They hadn't just cut me out. They were trying to erase the fact that I'd ever been a part of it. I didn't respond to the letter. Didn't sign anything. I saved a copy, put the original in a drawer, and went back to work the next day like nothing happened. But it sat with me. Not because of what they said, because of how little it surprised me. A week later, I got a text from my mom. "Let's fix this, please." That was it. No context, no apology, not even a hi, just a request. Like we were still in the middle of a fight that could be smoothed over with a cup of coffee and a forced hug. I didn't reply. 2 days later, she showed up again. I saw her through the peephole. She was wearing the same beige cardigan, holding that same leather purse like it was a shield. She didn't ask to come in, just said she missed me, that things had gotten out of control, that she never meant for it to go this far. She said my dad had been too proud and that Claire was just emotional. Said family was still family and we shouldn't throw each other away over a misunderstanding. I asked her what the misunderstanding was. That I was dating someone who didn't come from money. That I stopped paying bills for people who treated us like charity cases. That I expected respect before I handed over more of my paycheck. She didn't answer, just looked at me like I was speaking a different language. When she used to know but forgot along the way. Then she said something I didn't expect. She said Claire had been having a hard time, that she wasn't doing well, that the wedding didn't go how she wanted and she felt like I ruined it on purpose. That she cried the night after and hadn't been herself since. I stood there and let her say all of it. Then I told her calmly that maybe Claire needed to figure out who she was outside of staged weddings and family performances because none of this was about her anymore. Not really. I told her I wasn't angry. I was just done. Done with the guilt trips. Done with the silence and the blame. Done with the idea that I was supposed to give without asking for anything back. I said we were building a life and it didn't include people who saw love as something they had to approve of first. She didn't say goodbye, just turned and walked down the hallway. I watched her leave and felt nothing. Not sadness, not relief, just a quiet emptiness where something used to live. For a couple weeks, everything went quiet again, and I really started to believe it was over. But I should have known they weren't done yet because they never learned how to let go of things, especially not people they used to control. And their next move didn't come in the form of a letter or a visit. Came through someone I never expected. It had been quiet for weeks. No calls, no texts, no visits, nothing in the mailbox. I was finally starting to believe maybe it was over. Not fixed, not resolved, but over. They had their version of what happened and I had mine and we both moved on. Or so I thought. Then one morning, I got a call from an unknown number while I was at work. I usually let those go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. It was my former manager from the marketing firm I'd worked at 3 years ago. We hadn't spoken since the layoffs. He sounded a little awkward, like he wasn't sure if calling me had been a good idea. After some small talk, he said, "Your dad reached out to me." I just stood there frozen, phone pressed to my ear. He told me my dad had contacted him out of the blue, said he was concerned about me, that I'd been struggling, had made a series of unfortunate decisions, and that I might be looking for work or maybe even guidance. He mentioned that I distanced myself from family and was not doing well emotionally, just casually planting seeds, making me sound like I was spiraling. The kicker, my dad asked him if he'd consider bringing me on somewhere just to get me back on track. I thanked him for the heads up. He said he didn't believe any of it, but thought I deserved to know. I hung up and just sat there in the stairwell of the office building, staring at the wall. This man, who cut me out of his life when I stopped being useful, was now trying to quietly rewrite the narrative behind my back. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't even angry. It just confirmed everything I'd been trying to deny. This wasn't about emotion or regret or even pride. It was about control. Always had been. I went home and told her. She listened, and when I finished, she said, "He's trying to make you into a story he can still tell at dinner parties." That hit harder than anything else. Then she said, "I wasn't going to tell you yet, but I think you need to know." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. It was one of those early clinic reports. I looked at her and she nodded before I even asked. She was pregnant. I just sat there stunned. It was the first truly good thing to happen in months, maybe in years. I asked her when she found out. She said a few days ago. She wanted to be sure, and she didn't want it connected to all the chaos. She wanted it to be about us, not them. I broke. Not in a loud or dramatic way, just this quiet, overwhelming sense of clarity. All that weight I had been carrying started to feel like something I could finally let go of. Everything suddenly had a new shape, a different future. That night, we talked for hours about names, moving to a bigger place, how we'd handle everything. And I told her something I hadn't even said out loud to myself yet. I didn't need closure from them. I didn't need an apology. I didn't even want one. A week went by, then two. It was peaceful. We were planning, saving, thinking ahead. Felt like the beginning of something real. Then, like clockwork, another envelope showed up. Not certified, no legal nonsense. Just a simple card in a pastel blue envelope. Inside was a short note in my mom's handwriting. "We heard. We'd like to be part of the baby's life. Let's talk." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just a request to be part of the next chapter. Like they hadn't spent the last one trying to write me out. I showed it to her. She read it, put it down, and asked, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Nothing," because the decision wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours. And this new life we were building, it wasn't an invitation for them to rewrite the past. It was a wall, and we were finally on the right side of it. The update. It's been 7 months since that card showed up. We didn't reply. The first few weeks after, there were a couple more attempts. Another letter, then a voicemail from Claire saying she was willing to move forward if I was. I didn't respond to that either. Not out of anger. I just didn't see a future where any of them could be part of what we were building without trying to shape it into something that fit their version of what was acceptable. She's in her 3rd trimester now. We moved to a new place. A modest 2-bedroom in a quieter part of the city. Not flashy, not a house, but it's clean, it's calm, and for once, it actually feels like home. We put together the crib last weekend. Took us way too long and the directions were awful, but we laughed the whole time. I still think about them sometimes. Not in the way I used to, where I'd run through conversations in my head and think about what I should have said. Now it's different, detached. Like remembering a life that stopped being mine a long time ago. We talked once briefly. It was a couple months back. My mom called from a new number. I picked up without thinking. She asked how I was. I said we were fine. She asked about the baby. I said we were excited. Then she asked if there was a way to be involved just in some way. I told her I appreciated her asking, but I also told her the truth. That trust doesn't just heal itself, that I didn't forget how quickly they turned on us. That we're not looking for drama in a baby's life. Not theirs. Not anyone's. She got quiet, then said she understood. I haven't heard from her since. We've built something peaceful now. Not perfect, but honest. Some days I still feel the weight of what happened. Of how easily people who say they love you can draw lines in the sand when your choices don't match their standards. But more than anything, I feel light. A few nights ago, she fell asleep with her head on my shoulder, one hand resting on her stomach. I sat there listening to her breathe and realized, this right here is the only family I'll ever need. And this time, I'm not letting anyone take it from me.